Jay, people talk about free will, but I'm not convinced people know what's actually running their lives. What do you think's running their lives?
Great question. I think with most people, I don't want to go too far back into our previous podcast, but they're not honest with themselves. But it's not only that. I don't think it's just about honesty, being honest with yourself. I also think it's about actually being aware. I think a lot of people are oblivious to the influences within their life, whether that's their internal schema and way of thinking, or is that more so their external influences as well? Who they're around, how they operate, even things like, what time do they wake up? When do they go to sleep? What foods do they eat? All these things have micro influences on how you are and how you control yourself. So I think, yeah, are people aware of those things? No. Does that touch on the question?
Yeah, I suppose it's every human has like these foundational parts of their makeup, right? And it's whether it's socially influenced or you take it genetically. I was listening to an interesting thing the other day as well about how so many behaviors are actually passed down genetically.
Yeah.
That's why we hear things like addictive personalities and stuff. While it can be socially influenced, there are things that are definitely passed down genetically. But I think you're correct as well. There is a lot of stuff in the foundations of our personality which a lot of people haven't done a lot of shadow work and internal work to really have a proper look at and think about, how they have been raised. Maybe people around them have had particular points of views on things, and there's a big aspect of conformity too, I think.
Yeah.
You can't really be the black sheep in the group, otherwise you'll be shunned and ostracized and not really be a part of it.
Yeah, no, great point. I think it's, or at least for me, how I like to think of things, I would recommend this, is be aware that, other people are, if you want to, let's not in a derogatory sense, but sheep. It's perfectly fine to be one or dress up as one, but be aware that you are conforming. Be aware that you're wearing that wool and it's just an item of clothing, to expand on the analogy. But great point on the nature versus nurture as well. That's something that I think about a lot. How, to what extent, and how tangible are those aspects of life, right? In terms of people's behavior, nature versus nurture. Yeah, with me, where I stand on that specific topic, I guess there's a lot of people that are more down the clean slate argument, which is where nurture is more of an influence versus nature. I'm somewhere in between. So I guess you could clarify as constructivism, which is where there is a foundation of nature in terms of our genetics and our phenotype. How our genetics influence how our bodily characteristics are, and mental characteristics, neural pathways, etc. Right?
Is
But
that
then,
like the way we walk, the way we talk, that sort of thing?
yeah, that just pure genetics. The pathways within your brain, because yes, the brain is plastic in the sense that you can influence it and it changes, but there are some things that are quite fundamental, or at least on the more developmental side of things, in the very early stages of your life. So yeah, but I guess nurture has a big effect as well, right? It's can't remember where I was, but I saw an analogy which said that the genetics, I don't know, I was at work. Genetics is the loaded gun, but there are other things like characteristics, etc., which influence that behavior, and then other things that are more very nurture skewed would be the trigger for that gun. If that makes sense. So someone can be very compelled or have a very high likelihood of behaving or doing a certain thing or being a certain way purely because of their genetics, but then because of the fact that their environment makes it so that that's not the case, then they won't be the case, I guess. So let's say if, I don't know, someone is very prone to, I don't know, something like schizophrenia or whatever it may be, the environment can have a quite large influence. At least from a practical perspective, it's good because then you can have control over your environment. You can't control your nature. Yeah.
You
But
can move to a different location, surround yourself with different people.
true. Yeah.
You have control of these things.
Hmm.
I really like the sheep analogies and stuff. Have you seen that video of they do like this social study in
I
a
love
room?
these. I love these.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
brilliant. And they got random people in from the street and just said, "We want you to take part in a challenge. You'll see what it is when you come in." And I think there was probably about 10 chairs in a row. And the first 2 or 3 people in there were just actors. And when the bell, they just make a noise, just a bell noise. They were told to do a task and write on the piece of paper. And when the bell went off, the actors would stand up and sit down.
Hmm.
And the people coming in would be sat there and they would be doing the exact same, like writing down lines. And they would see what the actors are doing. And every time the bell went off, they'd stand up or sit down.
Yeah.
They hadn't been told to do this. They just look around to look what to do.
Yeah.
And they see what's going on.
Purely conforming, right?
Purely conforming.
Yeah.
And there's so much of this going on every day when we don't even realize it. We just grasp onto an idea that helps us feel secure when we don't know, when there's uncertainty and we don't know why something is happening or what is going to happen. We look around us to try find what's normal.
Yeah.
And we conform with it.
Yeah, no, I love this way of thinking. There are so many factors that influence conformity. So, social factors. Is it something where if you conform, there's less likely that something bad would happen to you? I guess you can see an evolutionary reasoning for that. If a bunch of people are running away and you join them, makes sense because if they're running, they're not going to be running for no reason, right? There's going to be some significant reason as to why people are fleeing a certain area. So it makes sense why those things are the way they are. But specifically with that study, that's it goes to show you how something that is seemingly absurd, standing up and has no purpose, has such an influence on people based on the individuals that are around you. So in psychological terms, the people that are standing up, that are a part of that study, are called confederates. Not in a political sense, that's just a term. And they are essentially agents that are conforming on purpose, and are very much within the study. And then the subjects, I guess, are the individuals. But yeah, those things, those factors and that way of being is quite pertinent throughout society. I think people don't really think about how much that is the case and how much of a negative influence, or positive or neutral, or an influence in general, that these things can have on society and current affairs,
I think the contrary to that, you get someone like, do you know Diogenes?
Yeah.
The cynics, right?
Yeah.
I think that they are the ones who really realized that and formed habits of questioning everything. Like, why do people do this? Why do people do that? And Diogenes, I mean, if what we know about him is true, the guy was ridiculous. I think he slept in a barrel. I think the story is that he was drinking out of a cup or a glass, some water, and he sees a dog licking out a puddle. And so he throws his cup away and starts drinking water from puddles. He would purposely...
Don't get any ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would purposely go and just shit in a corner of a room because he's basically just like, well, like why don't we do this? Yeah, you've got to have a little bit of cynicism to life. Not like be cynical in the terms of like be pessimistic and that sort of thing, but you got to question things.
100%.
And if you don't, you just be a feather in the wind of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Question everything. Yeah, I would say question everything. Rules as well included. Why are things the way they are? I'm not encouraging people to break the rules necessarily, but understand why they exist and what the intentions of those people who made them maybe. Sound like a villain.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're right. That to have that thought process is really good, because then you can operate in a way, in a completely different realm relative to other people. Didn't Diogenes as well? Who was it that came up to him?
Alexander the Great.
It's the Great. And it's
Alexander
about
the
the
Great, yeah.
sunshine
Yes.
and how he was like, I forgot what it was, but you can probably finish the line.
Basically, the story, I don't know it completely, but they come across one another. I don't know if it's true or not. I think it's true. And you got Alexander the Great, you know, the Great says it all. He conquered insane lands. I think he died at like 23 years old. And the stuff that he'd done in his lifetime is insane. He was just an absolute conqueror.
Yeah.
Had anything he wanted. Had power over people. And these are the things that we aspire for. But Alexander the Great, I can't remember what actually happened, but what it entails is that Alexander was envious of Diogenes for the simplicity of his life. He was so content with having so little
Yeah.
that he was jealous in a way of the happiness that Diogenes had achieved. And it speaks volumes, because we all grow up thinking the aim of life is to earn money, is to become famous, is to have a business, to have power, security, all these things. And while they do improve the quality of your life, there's no argument about that, I don't think. I think like money buys you the freedom to do what you want, and having security is good for your family and this sort of thing, but they don't determine your happiness. They're not necessarily I don't think anyway, necessarily fulfilling. They're what the Stoics would call they would call them either preferred or dispreferred indifferences. So there are things that are indifferent to us, but they fit either side of the line.
Yeah.
Preferred or dispreferred, wealth or poverty. And their conception of it is things that are preferred indifferences allow us to live a better life because they allow us to live more virtuous. Whereas things that are dispreferred because they make being virtuous more difficult in an essence.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you, for example, they say like money is an amplifier.
Yeah.
If you're a fool with a lot of money, you're going to be even more foolish.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a generous person with a lot of money, you can be more generous.
Yeah.
And there is different. I think every human being, and you can tell me whether or not you agree with this, but I think every human being within them has this kind of calling towards a life of simplicity, life of tranquility and calm. We like a bit of chaos, but everyone has this within them that they can understand being content with little.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think instead of more exploring why that, if that's the case, I agree it is. And I think there's a reason why. And it's because we're fundamentally hardwired to be able to get along with little.
Mm-hmm.
Going back thousands of years, our ancestors didn't have anything. No one had access to hot showers, 100 years ago. So the average person didn't. So of course we're going to be content with little, or are physically capable of being content with very minimal. The issue then comes, going on a bit of a tangent, an issue with that is, I don't know if greed's the right word, but if other people have more, other people want more. And then that's how society sort of develops. I don't know, an economist could probably elaborate a bit more on that for me. But yeah, are people fundamentally content with minimal? I think that is the case. I mean, if you look at old people, they're fine with not much, usually, on average, relative to your younger counterpart. So why is that the case? That's a good way to think. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that, but I guess it goes to show that people can be very content with little. And also children. Give a kid some entertainment, food, it's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's kind of like this middle age of life, probably progressing teenage years up until 50s, 60s. I think the way I would understand it is those are the most competitive stages of our life.
Yeah,
You're going into business, you're going into the working world. Biggest one, I think, is you enter the sexual market. You're looking to find a mate, find a partner.
I agree. Yeah, yeah,
That's where all the status games are played, you know. The high, the higher you are in the hierarchy, the more availability you have in your choice of partner. And so the drive to have more, I think, is generated in that.
yeah. No, I agree entirely. I think that society downplays, because of the taboo, downplays those effects and how important or potent they are within society and on an individual basis as well. They are so powerful. So it's a bit of a shame that it's a taboo, or at least people are afraid to talk about those sort of things. But yeah, the sexual marketplace drives, these things actually underpin a lot of people's motivations. And again, going back to our previous point, they're not necessarily aware of if that's the case. So again, that's why it's important. At least for me, I like to learn a lot about stuff like that, and more so intrinsic motivations and why humans are the way they are. Because then I can better understand myself. If I can understand myself, I don't know. Why do I understand myself? I guess if you keep asking why, it's a bit of a rabbit hole. But yeah,
It's like putting two mirrors in front of each other. But in Plato's Apology is a book. I haven't read it, but I have listened to parts of it, and it's an incredible book. I think like 75% of Plato's books are attributed to Socrates. They're dialects involving Socrates, dialogue, sorry,
yeah,
involving Socrates. And in Plato's Apology, he Socrates says, "The unexamined life is not worth living," and that's a really hard-hitting, cold statement. But I think it rings so true.
what is meant by unexamined?
Not thinking about yourself,
Yeah,
understanding yourself, the not examining why you are the way you are
yeah,
and why you want what you want and all those sorts of things. Because there's meaning in that. We are all human, and we conceptualize the God and the devil, but we have our higher self and our lower self. We have our conscience. I spoke with this quite thoroughly with your business partner, Adam. We talked about, the voice. Everyone has the voice in their head that says, you really should do this, you really should do that. We all have that, the conscience,
yeah,
that guide you to be your best self. But we also all have the temptations, the desires, the struggle to regulate emotion. And there is meaning in trying to control oneself and understand those polarizing forces.
yeah. There's definitely meaning there, or meaning can definitely be derived from that. I agree, and I think I'm not too familiar with Eastern philosophy, but my understanding is a lot of Eastern philosophy is based on having those concepts as a sort of foundational core. But that inner voice part is really interesting as well. I actually one thing about me is, in terms of the literal voice, the literal inner voice, I don't really have that. Just on a personal level, not that I like don't want it or want it. I just don't really have much of an inner voice. I tend to think I do have it. It is there. It's just not there the majority of the time. It's there when I need it to be, if that makes sense. But I like to, the way I approach the world, and this is, I guess, influenced the way that I am. I think I think with raw information, and it's very raw. I don't know what other word to use. So I can think of a word, a concept, a place, a noun, anything, but I don't necessarily have to have a voice to reflect that. And then I also wouldn't necessarily need a voice to dictate my thoughts as well. I can think those thoughts in a like strip away the language, the raw fundamental meaning behind it, I can just conceptualize it. That's a bit of a, I guess a.
No, I get what you're saying. Do you think that? Do you think that the reason you don't necessarily think that you have, and when I say voice, I don't mean you can hear it audibly. It's just a part about you that's like, I really should, you know, wipe the toilet seat, or I really should pick up that piece of rubbish, or I really should tidy that thing up because it just saves the job for someone else. It's not like you hear it, but you have that part about you. I wonder if the reason that you say you don't necessarily hear it is because you already align with it.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, in terms of that inner voice that tells you to do things in that context, I would say so. But there's also, as a human being, I struggle with things all the time, basic motivations. But then I just remember the reasons for me doing certain things, and that kind of thing. But the importance of language as well. You just made me think of a good topic that relates to this, which is the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is
I haven't heard this.
it's essentially this. I'm trying to summarize it. So imagine if you have, don't even need to imagine, human beings speak different languages. So the language that you speak and the way that you speak it dictates how then you see the world in terms of a worldview. So there was an experiment, I think it was in some of the subjects were Australian Aborigines, and because they're quite isolated human beings in terms of the old world, they're all the way in Australia, right? They have their language. I don't know if it was Aborigines or somewhere in Africa, but the language that they have in terms of how they described color was really interesting because that tribe would then describe a specific color for green or blue or whatever it may be, but then based on, you would show them a card of different strips of that color, and then they would categorize the green ones and the blue ones. But then for us, we would do it in a completely different way. I think on that topic as well, I think correct me if I don't know if you know, but we can research this post. But the ancient Greeks, I don't know if they had a word for or ancient, or Russians, not ancient, but one of those, I think a Slavic culture didn't have the word for blue.
Interesting.
And they kind of lumped it in with another color, I think, I don't know, maybe green, I don't know. But again, it strips down to the language and whatnot, and that affects then how you see the world. So if you, I guess using that concept, you can then imagine, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to imagine the fact that if you then speak to yourself internally in a way which aids you and aligns with where you want to go in life, that would then have tremendous benefits in terms of your actions and your output. So that's one thing that I try and align myself with every day. I think about why I do certain things, and I use language that is it reinforces those concepts, or at least those actions which I wish to accomplish throughout the day, long term, medium term, whatever it may be. So that being very critical about the language that you use is something that's very important to me. And also in terms of how you speak to other people too, and how people speak to you, etc. But I guess that concept also relates to the people that you surround yourself with as well. So
it's all energy, isn't it? I think they call like swear words, curse words for a reason.
Good point, yeah.
So touch on the Greeks again. What the point you made, by the way, I'm looking forward to researching this because I can see how that would be the case with the color thing. Because like if you go to Asia, their language is completely different to English. English is like made up of like Latin, bit Greek, and then a bit of
Germanic as well.
Germanic, from the Nordic regions and stuff. We're like half Anglo-Saxon and half Roman, pretty much here.
Yeah.
But if you look at ancient Greek and trace it back, etymologies are fascinating.
Yeah.
You will find that there are so many words that begin with D, which have negative connotations. Die, death, dark, down.
Interesting.
Think of them. You can think of them at home. There's loads. And then devil, demon, drowsy, I don't know. You can think of loads. And then G is the contrary. There are so many words beginning with G that have positive connotations. God, great, good, green,
Growth.
growth, grass is positive.
Yeah.
It's all positive stuff. Gratitude, gracious. There's loads of it. And I think there's something there. There's definitely energy transmitted amongst language. Whether that's a social construct or to do with, vibrations and stuff. If someone says something negative to you, that's going to have an impact on the way you think, the way you act, the way you want to respond. If someone says something positive to you, that's contagious. Someone praises you, or just says something positive like, the weather's really nice. It's quite trite, but,
Yeah.
Language does have a big impact on us. And you got to be really aware of the words that you use. The Bible began with a word, and the word is what brings order out of chaos, I think. It states something, and what it is stating is your choice. You have control of that. Are you stating something positive or negative? And that sets a tone.
Yeah. Yeah. Words are very powerful in terms of how you use them or how you then interpret what other things that people say to you, and whether you choose to, and I don't know if believe is the right word, but choose to believe or acknowledge internally other people's words. Because people can say things that are negative, or again, going into this whole conformity thing, can have that impact on you. But whether you choose to then allow that to influence you is a skill. And again, it's very important. And the reason why it's important is because of those factors which you mentioned. But yeah, etymology is really cool.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
like a word. If you just look it up, like mortgage. Do you know what mortgage means etymologically?
Something to do with death,
Yeah,
and then something else.
death pledge,
Death pledge. Okay.
which is kind of
Says a lot.
crazy, right?
Yeah, it says a lot.
But
Yeah.
I suppose this is kind of what you're trying to do with Nova. You're trying to create an environment of people who think this way,
Yep.
who understand the importance of speaking properly, networking properly, conversating properly, and you surround yourself with people who think like that.
Yeah.
It does a lot.
Yeah, the people that you surround yourself with have such a big impact in terms of, but in a way where you wouldn't necessarily know. Because again, how are you going to keep track day in, day out, or in very short spaces of time, the words, the values, how people uphold themselves? This is too much information for the brain to be completely conscious of at one moment. So then, again, that's the importance of having the right people around you, because if people are already practicing traits which you want to embody yourself, you will then embody those traits over time, subconsciously, and you won't necessarily even be aware that you're doing that. And you'll pick up good habits, both consciously and unconsciously, that would then help you, not only habits, but also more, I guess, higher level or more intimate or deeper, you could say, concepts as well, in terms of your worldview, where you want to go, your ambition, and also very factual knowledge as well. Tactics, time-based tactics in terms of what you're doing, but not just tactics, but traits in which are very beneficial in terms of where we are in the current society that we live in. So how to operate online, how to scale businesses, how to conduct yourself in environments such as this. Traits like that are very important and very key, which you learn. You learn from ultimately being around other people. That social influence is key. You can learn from observation. Observation and then practice and self-reflection. That's the main form of learning that would have the largest impact, in my opinion.
It's interesting because that's, if you think back to that analogy of walking into the room and you kind of just start standing up and sitting down because that's what other people are doing. There's not much about us I don't think that we can really control unless you go completely cynical.
Yeah,
But you can choose what room you walk into.
true.
You can choose, what way you are going to stand up and sit down
Correct.
based on the people you are around who are also standing up and sitting down. If you get what I'm trying to say,
Yeah,
And if you go into the wrong room, your posture and the way you stand up and sit down is going to be so wrong. But if you're in a room of people who stand up and sit down really well, you're going to learn to stand up and sit down really well.
exactly. There are those direct traits which you then pick up, as you mentioned, by just simply walking into the room. And again, there's those indirect traits, right? So if people have those traits and they're able to conduct themselves in a particular manner, not only conduct, but more so how they conduct themselves throughout life, you would then indirectly pick up those traits purely from being around those people, which is why it's very important to surround yourself with with individuals that have those. I mean, as the saying goes, the five people you surround yourself are the individuals that you would then sort of reflect their behavior on, and that's who you are. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. That's the thing. I don't know who made it up, but that's the saying that goes ahead, right?
It's so true, isn't it? So
And
true.
it's so impactful, and it's genuinely such the case, but people just don't acknowledge that. Although people are aware of it, everyone knows it to be the case, but do people act on it? That's the different case. People don't necessarily act. There's a bit of a disconnect there.
It involves a breakaway, doesn't it? And I think that's what people dread the most is leaving the old friend group behind,
Yeah,
leaving the relationship, leaving home, getting away from family if they're negatively impacting you. It's people fear it because it's uncertain. You don't know what the outcome's going to be.
yeah.
For someone in that situation, what do you think is the best way for them to seek out higher value environments and break away from things that are damaging them?
Great question. Yeah, I think it starts with yourself. It doesn't start with the environment. It doesn't start with the room, although those things are valuable. I think it starts with yourself, right? There is a moment, and in that moment, it's a switch. Whether you do something, you commit to something, or you don't, right? It's a it's a sort of sigmoid function, a scale that flips, right? It's an instant moment, and that moment is very key. Whether you're going to make a decision and commit to it. So, oh, sorry, I think I've gone off track. Remind me of the question.
For someone who doesn't know how to break away,
For someone who
too
doesn't know.
fearful, and also doesn't know how to seek out higher value environments, what's the best way to go about it? Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
As you know, I listened to Naval Ravikant on Modern Wisdom, speaking with Chris Williamson on the way here, and he's such an interesting character. But one of his heuristics, you might call it, is he likes to not necessarily act on impulse, but act on inspiration,
I
moments
like
of
that.
inspiration, because inspiration's going to go. It's not like I want to do this. I know I'm going to do it now while I'm inspired to do it. And I think you can kind of apply that framework with the situation that we're talking about for that person who doesn't know how to break away from the friends that are damaging them, to seek new friends who they don't know, but they know will be better for them. That moment of inspiration is time to act. It's an energy that you harness. And I think you should be incentivized by that.
Yeah, agreed. Use the motivation to build the discipline, which is then cyclical, right? And yeah, surrounding yourself with those people, whether they're not even necessarily friends, but just acquaintances or people that you come across in your day-to-day life, or at least have that direct access to individuals that are aligned with you in that specific circumstance. That's key. That's key. If you don't have access to people that are aligned in that way, you're not going to learn as fast as you would ideally want to or be capable of. That's one of those things where it's an essential part of your remit or your goals in order to actually conduct what you want to do throughout life. I think it's a necessity. It's a necessity.
Do you believe in the law of attraction?
Good question. Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts on law of attraction. Am I comfortable with the question, do you believe in the law of attraction? Not quite. I think it can be broken down quite a bit.
I
Yeah.
wrote a page on the law of attraction. I've got it here. Would you mind if I read it to you?
Yeah, sure.
And I hope it breaks it down in the way that I think you would quite like the understanding of it.
Sure.
Some say there is a magical force that allows us to get whatever we want. They claim this force is accessible to everyone and is simple and easy to use. Others argue that no such magic exists and that what we get in life is merely the result of luck or chance. We often hear about manifestation, visualization, and most notably the law of attraction from people who have achieved success. From comedic figures like Jim Carrey to combat sports icon Conor McGregor, many have spoken about the secret that helped them achieve their goals. But is it really a secret? In truth, it is no longer hidden. Awareness has grown around the idea that what we consistently hold in our minds can shape the course of our lives. A book by Rhonda Byrne, aptly titled The Secret, suggests that thought alone can influence objective circumstances in one's life. Does that sound ludicrous? Consider the following ideas and how they connect. Jim Rohn famously said, "You don't get what you want in life, you get what you are." Imagine two types of people. One spends their time and money chasing hedonistic pleasures in search of fulfillment, endlessly pouring into an ever-draining bathtub of satisfaction. What do they tend to attract in their life? The people, circumstances, and opportunities around them often reflect the behaviours and values they embody. Another person chooses to eat well, train their body, act kindly towards others, and remain patient even when confronted with contemptible behaviour. What kind of life do you imagine this person attracts? In most cases, the answer is clear. Life tends to mirror the person we become through our actions. Earl Nightingale stated, "We become what we think about." Those who consistently ruminate over desire, envy, resentment, or regret often grow into individuals who reflect those qualities. Conversely, people of integrity are shaped by disciplined thought, self-control, empathy, and an understanding of human imperfection. Thoughts function like seeds. Whatever we choose to dwell on grows stronger. Over time, these thoughts take root and shape our personality. By drawing these two ideas together, we can see a clear relationship between thought and outcome. Thoughts, personality, outcome. A person who repeatedly tells themselves that they lack confidence gradually builds a personality that reflects insecurity. This leads to unfavorable outcomes, which then reinforces the idea of being unconfident. On the other hand, someone who consistently thinks and acts as though they are confident and capable develops more confidence, and they place themselves in situations where the confidence is expressed and receives feedback that strengthens it further. This creates either an upward spiral or a downward spiral. This principle is echoed in the Bible, where Matthew writes, "Those that have will be given more, and from those who have not, more will be taken." Reframed psychologically, this suggests that those who possess confidence tend to gain more of it, and those who lack it often lose what little they have. Replace confidence with any other trait, discipline, patience, resilience, and the pattern remains the same. In conclusion, the law of attraction is not magic. It is a pattern woven into the structure of reality. It is accessible to anyone, but it requires responsibility rather than wishful thinking. Ultimately, it depends on how we use the only faculty we truly have control over in our life, our mind.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
No, I really like that. That's amazing. Yeah, law of attraction isn't magic per se. It's well, definitely not magic. It's something that is written into. Again, you could paint a brush and say reality, but yeah, more specifically, the environment that we inhabit, our genetics, potentially other things as well. I don't really know what exactly that means, but other mediums, yes, the mediums around us, 100%. I really like that. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, really good.
It took me some time to write, but again, one of those moments of inspiration. I just thought, I have a bit of time now.
Yeah,
I have an idea. I'm going to write it. But it's something I think about quite a lot because, and I can only speak from my perspective in my life, but I do genuinely believe that when you start to put your mind in the right place and think positively and tell yourself that you are things, not in an egotistical way, not in like a delusional manner. I think there is an element of fake it till you make it. But when you start to, like, you tell yourself, I'm a confident person, and you start to genuinely believe that, you will put yourself in situations that exhibits that confidence,
yeah,
and then you receive, most of the time, positive reinforcement on that confidence, and that kind of strengthens this self-image. And it's just got to start with, you know, telling yourself something almost out of the blue.
yeah,
Jordan Peterson. Do you know Jordan Peterson?
yeah.
I just think he's a terrific man, personally. I think he's one of the most intentionally misrepresented people in the world, as Joe Rogan would put it. But Jordan Peterson's first rule in 12 Rules for Life is stand up straight with your shoulders back. And the intention behind this rule is if you just start acting and being like the person who you want to be, you will be treated like that person, and you will develop this self-image of being this person, and you'll become that person.
Yeah.
What do you think on that?
Yeah, I think self-reflection is key. And it's about acting and then using that as I guess in a chicken versus egg situation, right? Is it the actions that matter, or is it the intentions behind it?
That's a great way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah. But regardless, if you have control over the one or the other, do them, because as you said, they reinforce themselves. So reinforcement is another thing as well that people are just oblivious to. Reinforcement, and then also exponentials. So people, if you can sort of marry the two terms, exponential and then, or that concept rather, but then exponentials and an upward spiral or downward spiral, you can very easily see that humans are not aware of these things in terms of their impact within our lives. And as a consequence, yeah, they don't necessarily understand the secrets to the game. Because, yeah, as you mentioned, the action, having that as the prerequisite for then the belief to reinforce within yourself in terms of I am confident, or I can do this, or I will accomplish that. Having that as a fundamental framework to work with is key, because it reinforces over time.
Yeah.
To contextualize it, again, if you stand up straight with your shoulders back, if I'm quoting that correctly,
Yeah, that is,
you then you come across confident, and all these mannerisms are, one, picked up by other people, two, internally picked up by yourself, even down to the nitty gritty. How your nervous system then associates that confident motion and holding it as well. So stuff like that is reinforced, which people are completely unaware. Who thinks of that? No one thinks that.
Yeah,
Unless you actually properly sit there and reflect, like what we're doing now. So, yeah, there is so much reinforcement that, again, we're oblivious to. But if you just act that way, you can derive value from that. But that's one of those things where it takes a bit of time. And I think that action, is it action or intention that's more important? I guess that's a good next.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
Action or intention? I feel like this is a question I should be asking you.
Yeah, I'll speak on it after you.
I think in life it's more important to be a thing than to look a thing.
Yeah.
And to look a thing, you can get away with just doing the action. I think it's the intention of your heart which matters the most. Because, again, to draw upon Plato's apology, Socrates is fine dying. being given the death sentence because he knows that he has been a good person. He knows he has lived a virtuous life,
Yeah.
and that he is only being sentenced to death because they couldn't hack this man. They couldn't hack how good he was, and they were bad people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think intention matters more than action, but action has to follow intention.
Yeah. In terms of morals specifically, rather than I guess sort of day to day mundane actions. But yeah, with morals, really good way of thinking. I think they're key, and I guess that also who immediately came to mind as well was Gandhi, because I've forgotten the quote, but I'm going to paraphrase it. It's something where you can take my environment, you can break my body, but you cannot touch or influence fundamentally who you are. So, or at least with him in his context, with the battles that he was going through. Yeah, that's the one thing that you truly have control of is your mind, or that at least that aspect of your mind, right? But yeah, I guess is action more important than intention? Yeah, they definitely influence each other, as we've discussed. But which one is more important? In a moral perspective, to touch on what you said, yeah, I guess you can. One way of framing it would be, and I love this part of philosophy, is utilitarianism versus, I guess, sort of intention based thing. When I studied philosophy, I was more aligned with utilitarianism in terms of what's good for society. But again, there can be
What more on the like political philosophy grounds?
yeah. Yeah, in terms of the greatest outcome for the greatest amount of people is the ideal, which people should strive for. But I guess with my moral framework is more of my own constructivist approach to different philosophies. So I've taken some of utilitarianism, some from Aristotle in terms of ideals and virtues, etc. A lot from that actually. Kant as well, double with that. Yeah, I think moral frameworks are interesting, right? Because you take aspects from different people, different societies, different ways of thinking, different time frames in terms of our thinking. Right now we're talking a lot about ancient Greek philosophy. That's one time. But funny enough, isn't it funny that a lot of these notions or these ideals and ideas apply to your everyday life, despite our environments being incredibly different to how they were 2,000 plus years ago.
I think that they will always be contemporary ideas. Like they will always be something to think about. And that's why they've been around for a couple millennia now, more than.
Yeah.
Because they are just questions about life, no matter how advanced we become. I don't think we'll ever fully be able to answer, but we all have like a general understanding of, like, for instance, what's right and wrong. Where do you think that comes from?
Very good question. What's right and what's wrong? In terms of ideas, actions, where does that come from? I think it comes from. Actually, I think I do know where it comes from. I haven't thought about this properly. This is a good one. I would say, where does right and wrong come from? I would say it comes from, and I don't know if this is a cop out, but I think it comes from being in an environment where, with humans, in terms of how we've evolved, to what is most beneficial for you as an individual within a tribe. Because if you look after your counterpart, your tribe, whoever it is, your neighbor, they would be, in terms of pure game theory, if you look at it this way, they would be more inclined to then take care of you, and vice versa. And overall, if everyone helps everyone, the chances of then all of you procreating and moving on in the future, whatever, is therefore increases. So I think that's where it comes from. But again, that answer that I just said, it doesn't fully satisfy me because I feel like it's a bit of a cop-out. It's a bit of a reductionist answer. I'm sort of reducing it to just evolutionary terms, which obviously is the case, but it feels like there's so much more to it, right? These very, very high-level concepts of love and grief, fear, very strong emotions that most humans experience. Yeah, I think they're just something that's so complex and also very subjective and very intangible. Don't know if that answered the question. I think it was a bit of a cop out, but
Well, no, it's a hard question to answer, but it does definitely get on the right path. Again, to quote Naval from the podcast I was listening to earlier, but he said something that's so true. A virtue is something that is like it's a moral or an ethical behavior
yeah,
that is beneficial to the individual and everyone around them.
yeah,
If everyone were to exhibit a virtue, everyone would benefit. That's what a virtue is.
yeah,
And to touch on your point, that again back to our tribal roots and stuff like that. That's why it's important to be virtuous, because the tribe wouldn't work, the society wouldn't work.
yeah. Civilization would break down. Yeah. What I like as well with Naval and then a few other people in terms of ancient philosophers as well is how they've married the idea of the environment, or rather moral, where the morals originate from in terms of human beings, and then also the actions which surround them as well. So I think it's a good way to contextualize the fact that morals are mind dependent and also intangible. How do you then clarify and reveal the light on those things? I think that's, yeah, via action is one way, intention is another, and virtue is, I guess, a third. Virtues, vices, etc. Golden rule kind of thing.
Golden mean's an interesting one. Aristotle, I think that is it Aristotle. Golden mean.
I think so.
It's like the right way to act is the balance between two extremes. I think we said this in the last one.
I think we did, yeah.
Recklessness, but cowardice, courage.
Yeah.
I think that all the virtues are, in a way, kind of a construct of that golden mean, true virtues. But it kind of leads into other arguments as well, like the fine-tuning argument, which is it's an argument for the existence of God, but it's everything works at a perfect balance, day and night, positive and negative, masculine and feminine, down to the atomic level, balance everywhere. And I guess it applies the same for moral behaviour. Balance.
Yeah, it's a nice way of thinking, right? Reducing something that's extremely complex down to a spectrum, a balance, at least within 2 dimensions. It's very easy for humans to comprehend, and for us to then practically use those notions and then attribute them within our daily lives. Yeah, and then also civilization, cultural, I guess, notions and how humans behave. Yeah, I think balance is key. And yeah, if you explore nature and look into fundamentally, fundamental particles, etc., positive, negative charge, etc., balance, there is that aspect of yin and yang that is there. Yeah, it's a good way to think. You can think. Humans are hardwired actually to think within a sort of 2-dimensional plane with balance. So it's a tool, right? It's a mental tool. practically. I'm quite a, yeah, I guess I'm someone that if I see something that's useful or a concept or something, I try and enforce that. So that's now just made me realize, oh, okay, yeah, humans tend to reduce things into 2, 3 dimensions and then use that to then understand the world that we live in. Because again, the world that we live in tends to have things that are balanced in that way.
It's very true. I think it's very important to like really think about these sorts of things because it does bring you to like guiding principles in life. And I mean, the word philosophy means love of wisdom. And Socrates also said, the only wisdom is knowing that you know nothing.
Yeah.
So in a sense, philosophy is loving that you know nothing.
It's revealing.
Yeah, it's understanding that the amount that you don't know is infinitely disproportionate to the amount that you do know.
Yeah.
It's very humbling, because you can't be a know-it-all. It's impossible to know it all.
Yeah.
There's always more you can learn. There's always someone bigger, taller, smarter, stronger, cleverer than you in the room.
Yeah.
And life is about expanding that, and I think we lack a lot of this in today's world. Like Marcus Aurelius is just such an incredible role model, I think, for men and women. He is the philosopher king.
Yeah. The philosopher king.
The philosopher king. He's the closest thing to Plato's philosopher ruler. When he describes a utopia, he describes I don't know if you know, have you ever read The Republic or studied any of The Republic by Plato?
As in the Roman Republic? I guess no.
No, The Republic, Plato, I think it's one of Plato's main books. But when he describes a utopia, an ideal society, it's an aristocracy of unelected philosopher rulers.
Yeah.
Whose only intention is understanding the good. And yeah, Marcus Aurelius is the only one who even closely resembles this, and even he had his own struggles,
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely did.
And we lack this. We lack this today. I mean, like what does Keir Starmer stand for? What does he stand for?
Oh, you tell me. I have no clue. I have no clue.
Like if you were to strip back politics to its emotional core of today, what emotion do you think is driving politics?
To classify, do we mean local politics or geopolitical? What, Champions League or Premier League?
It's a good way of putting it. Champions League or Premier League.
I literally used that today.
I like that. Both. Let's do Premier League first.
So local politics. And what exactly is the question?
If you would strip politics down to its emotional core,
okay.
what emotion is driving it right now?
Ooh, emotional core politics. And what is driving it? I actually think that there's a third factor that comes into this, and this is a way in which politics is delivered. So, before I give you the exact answer, I'll just elaborate on this, and then I'll give you the emotion or whatever it is that drives that. So, the Ottomans had one of their key things that they missed out on was a printing press, and they didn't expand that throughout their society, and as a consequence, that then impacted how they developed, etc. But the reason why I use the example of a printing press as such a key thing is because that's PR, that's the way public relations, that's the way of delivering information to a society. So what's another way in which information is delivered through to society? If you look on a timescale basis, it was that printing, etc., newspapers, then radio came along. Radio, then television, now social media. And I think the way in which you interpret that information, the medium in which you interpret that information, can have a vast impact on whatever it is that you're learning, and the phrasing, etc., which is used. There's so many factors, right? The language, is it a direct or indirect statement? Is it leading or open-ended? Is it, what's the intention behind whatever it is that people are saying? But in terms of today, what's the main way in which political information is communicated? All over social media, right? On instant form content, that kind of thing. So I think instant form content that, on your TikTok, your Instagram, whatever it may be, that has such an impact in terms of the framing of how we then respond to any political ideas. So I've noticed,
That's really
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
and the reason why I went all the way back is because you can see over time how these things develop. Because of instant short form content, it's very easy, especially given all the data points, the data avenues in which large social media companies can then utilize. They are very key because we can elicit extreme emotional reactions within human beings purely based on a 5-second video.
Yeah.
A 5-second video, and it can just rile dates of some people, can be impacted in such a way where it affects their entire day. It's 5 seconds. But anyway, the data points are key. What colors are used, the sounds, the tones, down to the very milliseconds in terms of what's presented to you. That is very, very impactful. People don't really recognize this. Content creators recognize this because they know what's key in terms of what's going to get traction, what's not going to get traction. Funneling leads, having influence, any form of influence. That's something that people in that space know. Obviously, big tech, large data, your Meta, etc. They all know that's part of the game, right? Amazon, etc. But going back to the point, what was the point in terms of political emotion?
I suppose how you could lead this to the point. The point is, what emotion is driving politics, and I
Yeah.
suppose that politics drives the emotion, which drives the politics.
Oh yeah. Now, which one is first, right? Yeah. I think it's a constant exchange. There's a back and forth between both. What drives what? I guess there's always people there is a winner, you could say, or someone that benefits from putting something out there, whether that's the medium in which that political information is delivered. Is it the politicians themselves? Is it or on the sort of the societal end, the mass? Do they, there's mass influences which are usually disregarded and not really thought about, like collectivist thoughts and everything. But yeah, what emotion is driving it? To answer your question, I would say haste, or anything that sort of riles up. I don't necessarily want to reduce it to a word, but anything that riles up that emotion within people. Politicians know how to use that. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing in terms of how to gauge a response, which would then align with their interests. So, yeah,
Yeah,
bit of a tangent,
no.
but
It feeds in.
yeah,
It's
I
a really
don't know.
interesting point. I read a book, Supremacy. It's about AI and stuff.
Okay.
There's a part of it talking about the way that the search engines and social media algorithms work. And I'm sure you're very familiar with this term, echo chambers.
Yeah.
Fascinating phenomenon, but it's exactly what's going on social media right now. People's feeds, it knows what your political views are. So it will give you more content, more posts that conform with your political views, further reinforcing your political views. This is happening on both the left and the right. Polarizing, driving the left and the right further and further and further away from each other. And this is why I think in like the US, right? Democrats and Republicans. It's been like this for a long time. blue versus red, blue corner, red corner, left versus right. You have this massive kind of split war at the moment. Politics, identity politics, massive thing.
Yeah.
You're either left or you're right. And I had this conversation with someone the other day, and there's a lot going on in the world right now. But someone says to me, "Oh, you're a massive Trump fan." I said, "No, I'm not a massive Trump fan." She said, "Yeah." And when the election was going on, out of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, out of everything that I saw, I thought Donald Trump would be the better election there. And I said, "No, I'm not a massive Trump fan. I'd rather Trump than Harris if I was in the States." But it's like me saying I'm a Tottenham fan, right? Let's say that Arsenal need to win one more FA Cup to have one more FA Cup more than Tottenham.
Mm.
And it's Arsenal versus Chelsea in the final, but I don't like either team.
Yeah.
I don't think either team are really that preferable to me, but I'd rather Chelsea win just so Arsenal don't get that final cup, because I don't think Arsenal will be very good with that final cup.
Yeah.
And there's so much of this going on in the world today, and it's crazy. But back to the point of the echo chambers, I think what characterizes the radically left is toxic compassion. It's this sense that everyone needs equality, equity, all this stuff, DEI, happiness, make everyone feel comfortable, participation, prizes. It's what characterizes the radical left. It's toxic compassion. It's good. It's bad masked as good. It's not good for us.
Mm.
But then, in a society that's more right wing leaning, I don't know what emotion characterizes that. Resentment? Yeah. No. It's definitely compassion on the left.
Mm. Yeah, and I think the reason why compassion is one thing is compassion is a vulnerability, and I think going back to the echo chambers part, human beings, they love to, when things are echoed around, they become oblivious to the nature of the world that we live in and the dangers that are present within the world. Dangers, again, can be exploited and whatnot, but people forget that they live in a society that can collapse. Things aren't all soft and cushy. We live in a world that has no obligation to help us and keep us alive. It's fundamentally us as humans who have created a civilization that have a globalized economy to make it so that we are able to then live. But then again, if you've grown up in such a soft environment where everything is there for you, the water's there, food, Uber Eats, echo chamber of ideas, you get into a land of idealism, which is very, very dangerous because it's detached from the world that we live in. You don't have a direct understanding or grasp on the world that we live in, which I'm sure you'd agree with, right? Many people within these echo chambers unfortunately have. And it's something which is, on the surface, very nice, compassion, whatever it may be, that is actually a vulnerability and is taken too far. I'm sure, do you agree?
Yeah, completely. It kind of, it's an accelerator effect, isn't it? It just drives and can go in the complete wrong direction. And then we look back and think, fuck.
Yeah.
We're not where we're meant to be. I must say we're not in that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
exactly.
when are we going to look back and think that didn't? And if you know, Jordan Peterson speaks about this a lot. We know what happens when we go too far right. Look at Nazi Germany. But then we don't have a recent example of what happens when we go too far left. And we're starting to, I think, in particular, he speaks a lot about can't do it.
Well, Soviet Union. Although they're authoritarian, but see there, if you classify socialism as being left. But yeah, in terms of modern left ideals, yeah, I would say they, yeah, you're right. There is no sort of recent example that I can think of that would make sense. But yeah, sorry, continue.
No, it's true. It's going left and left and left and left. This is what sparked Jordan Peterson to fame, really, was all the stuff that was going on in Canada. Was it Bill C-16 or something like that? He speaks about it a lot. But it was the impediment on free speech
Yeah,
to
crazy.
do with pronouns and stuff. And that's where it really, that's a free will, is your speech. We have a power to speak and they're impeding on it. That's a real big problem. But we're having this in the UK right now. If you say something online that doesn't conform with the ideologue, I've seen videos of people have police turn up at their house and arrest them for something they've posted online that's maybe just slightly more right-wing leaning. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy world that we live in, which I guess is actually one reason why, at least fundamentally in terms of how it's laid out, the US is quite appealing to me, because look at their constitution, etc. It at least mitigates those dangers far more than what would be the case in the UK and other countries. But yeah, no, I agree. It's insane. I've seen stuff like that as well. Shocking. Like, what? Over tweets.
No matter what
Yeah.
everyone is entitled to their political view, I think, and you're entitled to your own opinion, but it's just
It's insane.
bonkers.
It is bonkers.
It is bonkers. Have you read 1984, George Orwell?
I was literally about to say that is Orwellian.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I haven't read it, but I'm familiar with the concept.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I'd recommend anyone to read it if you want to, become more aware of patterns in the world, and really does scare you reading that book,
Yeah.
because immediately you make links to things that are happening today. Will we get to that point? No, I don't think so. Could do. But I think as a society, it's important that we worry about getting to that point. And
Yeah.
the fact that we worry about getting to that point is the reason that we don't.
Yeah.
It's quite a Marxist theory, but eventually the gap between the top and the bottom becomes so big that society just collapses and restarts again. And that will happen. Empires rise and fall.
Yeah. They do. And I guess with at least recent European history, Poland, etc., and then the US, and the US, viewing the US as an experiment is something that's of interest to me. That topic made me think of. It's an isolationist state based on certain principles that has developed and is now the current global superpower. So, yeah, I think humans are having different societies as a bit of an insurance policy for humanity, because then if some collapse, fine, they collapse. If some don't, great. There's a bit of a natural selection process to that, which you can actually just overlay on that concept, I would say.
That's that's so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is natural selection.
Yeah, the societies that are strong, self-governing, are able to hold themselves where they're sort of fine internally. Those are the societies that are around today, and that have conviction and whatnot ingrained into their populace. They're the ones that are around. And what's interesting is, and I don't know, I haven't really heard this too much, to be honest. And I would usually expect it on like the All In podcast, for example. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Which is this concept. Humans have been isolated throughout history. Only now, within the past 100, if that couple 100 years, are we in a truly a global society in terms of globalization. But we're going to get to a point where we're not anymore. And the reason being is because there is going to be another isolation, which is down the line, whether it's decades away or more, or in terms of how you define it. I guess that's up to the rate of progress, but that's the colonization of other planets within our solar system that no one really thinks about.
Mm.
They're going to develop their own civilizations and societies over time.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
I guess we're going into that kind of area now, but makes me think about, science fiction writers, Arthur C. Clarke, Frank Herbert, Dune, and those concepts and how they view society and the development of humanity from here onwards. That's one thing that's really interesting to think about, which should be deliberated on more, I would say.
It's definitely cyclical, and
Mm.
it has been cyclical. What do you think of there's theories about like the Great Resets and the Great Floods, Noah's Ark, the Younger Dryas impact, Randall Carlson. Do you know Randall Carlson? Really interesting.
Is that the guy that pushes Young Dryas, or is that
Yeah, yeah. He's an astronomer,
okay?
but him with Graham Hancock, you might be
Okay,
thinking
Graham.
of.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's the theory of basically there was just a great reset and everything's been rebuilt back up from then. I suppose that's might be the last time we had like a great reset, but I
yeah,
think that we could be approaching one now with our technological advancements. We might be bringing it upon ourselves.
yeah,
Looking, as you said, looking to spread across planets and AI.
yeah,
I mean, who knows what to think of that?
yeah, yeah. AGI and going down that rabbit hole is whether we'll get there, which I think we will. Artificial general intelligence. We're slowly pushing towards that.
Mm.
But yeah, in terms of great research, yeah, these potent technologies, and then also black swan events that might happen to humanity, whether that's asteroids or whatever it may be. These things are so potent, and yeah, will we go through that again? I would hope not. I don't think we will, but it's definitely a possibility, and we should definitely act as a species as if that is the case, or that it may happen, because then we're prepared. But yeah, great resets and everything with the Young Dryas impact, even on a sort of a local view. Have you heard of Doggerland?
I haven't.
Doggerland was a place that existed a couple of thousand years ago. I think 6,000 years ago, something like that. It was an area geographic area between modern day England and the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. So it was that strip, and Belgium. That strip was, yeah, it was land. It was land. People used to inhabit that area.
Where the channel is.
Yeah, the channel, but also the lower part of the North Sea,
North. Okay,
the
yeah.
south of the North Sea. So that area was, yeah, it was land, a bit marshy and everything, close to the sea level, more or less at the time. But then, yeah, due to the way that the climate changed, for various reasons, that was, yeah, sea levels rise, and then, yeah, no one lives there anymore. There was a flooding,
Interesting.
and I think there was a tectonic shift, and that caused a big, huge wave, and then that kind of, eventually over time, that area just got completely wiped out.
Similar thing happened to the Americas as well, though, I believe. I may be wrong, but there's the Bering Strait, which is
Yes.
between Russia and America,
Yeah, yeah.
and the reason why they found so many Asian genes in the American Indians and the South Americans, like the Mayans, is they believe that humans migrated from Asia
Yeah.
across the Bering Strait into America, and then similar thing, tectonic shifts. Maybe it was from the Younger Dryas impacts. That strait, that piece of land was covered over, and they couldn't get back, so they were stuck there.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see like different cultures and
I
like
love it. Yeah, it's
it's
so cool.
fascinating, isn't it? And you
Yeah.
think about how different the Asian language is to English or Latin,
Yeah.
and it's because they started from their completely different separate roots. The Romans had no clue of China. They didn't. I don't even think they knew of the Mongols. They didn't even know of these places, and it's when you think about the span of the earth, it's recent history. The Romans.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
think on a timescale of the whole Earth,
Yeah.
and
2,000 years is nothing.
they didn't, the amount of the planet they didn't know is mental.
Mm.
And think about where we are today.
Yeah, they're only around the Mediterranean, and the reason being is because of the breadbasket Egypt was because of the access to the ocean and transport. But yeah, exactly. You're right. You know, they had no, I guess, awareness of other civilizations. Well, obviously they did, but there's some that existed before them that they obviously wasn't recorded and whatnot. That's one thing that they were very good at, though, the Romans, which was documentation.
Yeah.
Sounds so boring, but actually that's very important because that's
We have quite a good history of Romans because of that, don't we?
yeah,
They were very good at that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Roman history is, I think we can take so much from it.
Mm.
And like I read a book by Mary Beard, SPQR, which is the
Their slogan,
it's
kind of
their thing, yeah. It's
acronym they use.
acronym. That's it. Senatus Populus C Romanus, which is the Senate and the people of Rome. Great book, but it's so interesting because again, look at today's world, look back at then, and there's still so much going on of what used to happen. I guess politics is always the same.
Yeah, like purely due to the Romans, you know, invading and then, or taking over the Gauls and Britannia at the time and whatnot. But then using the Rhine, I believe, as or the Danube, or was it the Rhine? I think it was the Rhine, as a natural border between the Germanic tribes. Fast forward 2,000 years later, that's a factor at least as to why World War One happened, World War Two. So these things are very, very
Yeah,
influential,
that's a
right?
really interesting one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good way of thinking.
yeah,
Yeah, that other cool things as well. I don't think that we pay attention too much from history is the ancient Persians. The ancient Persians were
that was Alexander the Great, wasn't it?
so
He was Persian,
he was Greek. He was Macedonian,
Macedonian,
but he conquered
Persia.
Persia, or yeah, I guess it conquered is roughly the right word, because that was at the time the center of the world. You know, they had I don't know the exact term, but they had their own version of the Constitution, a Bill of Rights, that kind of thing. Yeah, it was freedom of religion, and that's 2,500 years ago. So that was quite a while back. But usually within history, at least where we've grown up, that's kind of glossed over. But anyway, there's a lot of value that I kind of derive from my life from other other regions, and their sort of philosophy and religion, and then over time embed that into my understanding of the way that we live in. But yeah, such a cool thing to deliberate on.
We're drawing close to the end of our time here, but I really want to go back and talk with you a little bit more about virtue.
Yeah, yeah,
And
sure.
I think it's such an important thing. What makes I spoke about this with Adam. In today's world, we're lacking good men.
Yeah,
I think we can attribute lots of the problems in today's world because men are no longer good men. But I've been thinking a lot about recently this, in particular with Marcus Aurelius. Why would he write a book to himself? He was the loneliest man in the world. No one got him, yet he was still so committed to being a virtuous human being.
yeah,
And what's so great about him is he had every single temptation you could imagine. He could sleep with anyone he wanted. Anyone who annoyed him, he could have killed. He had as much money as he wanted. He was the king of the world. They didn't know about China and stuff. He could eat wherever he wanted. He could live wherever he wanted. Yet he was still so focused on not wearing a purple robe because he didn't want to get too ahead of himself. He reminds himself that the color of the dye purple, which by the way was, as I'm sure you know, is royalty because it was such an expensive dye. He reminds himself that it's just snail blood. He's minimalizing the meaning, the importance of these things.
yeah,
When he eats feasts, he reminds himself that it's just dead animals on a table. try not to get too ahead of himself, but back to the point. It's so easy to feel so alone when you feel like you're doing the right thing. And it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with today.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much of it you've been through yourself, but what do you think is the best way for someone to deal with that aloneness in what they believe is the right thing, but they feel the separation and the gravity back towards the bad thing? How do you deal with that?
Gravity back towards the bad thing.
Whether it's bad behaviors, bad habits, people trying to bring you back to them. Oh, you should drink tonight. Oh, you're so boring. No, I don't want to drink tonight. Oh, come have some fun with us. Who do you think you are?
Yeah,
How do you put a hard shell on and move away from that?
got it. Hard shell, I like that. So, in terms of that isolation, I think that yeah, I've got a few thoughts on this. How would I deal with that? I've been in situations where I've been very, I wouldn't say lonely, but I would say isolated, purely because of the way that I think, the way that I operate, the upbringing that I've had, and the nuanced situations in terms of how I came to develop mentally. So I've definitely been isolated in that way, or at least I thought I was, or I definitely was, fundamentally. But then what can you do about that, right? I think it fundamentally boils down to the fact that you have the choice. You have the choice to then act on whether you're isolated or whatever it may be. And if it's an issue within your life that you're not content with, you can then act on that. You can then surround yourself with the right people that align or relate or whatever it may be to the way of thinking that you embody. And then you can bring those people on, have that connection. Humans crave connection. If you're not able to understand your fellow man, the guy next to you or whoever it is, you're going to feel very isolated, even because communication is very important for human beings. So one, you have to have the ability to communicate, which then hinges on action. Two, you have to be able to roll the dice to find the people that matter to you. So that's very important. So I would say, how would I deal with that? I would just surround myself with the right people. Not too many people. It doesn't have to be hundreds or however many people. It just has to be the right amount, a couple of people, bare minimum, that are aligned in that way. Find your tribe. Find the people that you connect with. It's those people that then dictate how you are based on our previous conversation. They dictate the way in which you conduct yourself, your ambitions throughout life, the way you reflect on the nature of being, whatever that may be. And then internally yourself as well. You reflect about the small nuanced behaviors that you do. What time do you wake up? How do you conduct yourself? How do you operate? What is your internal goals, and how do you then bring those into fruition? And also reflect on what's important to you, because again, what's important to them isn't necessarily going to be important to you, and vice versa. But if you're aligned in the ways that help you achieve whatever goal that is very nuanced to you, that's what matters. So again, fundamentally, how would I deal with the sort of isolation in that manner is align myself with the people that matter to me and other people that are go-getters and that are doing things, building, operating, have a certain outlook on life, because they exist. You walk past them every day, you might not necessarily know that they exist, but they are there. There is that international community, you could say, right? That's what fundamentally one of the reasons why we started Nova Group. The reason why Nova Group exists is to act as a harbor for people that align to the things that I previously said. So again, an international space for operators, founders, people that are looking for more, people that are looking to grow and surround themselves within a community where they're like-minded. So that's fundamentally one of the core concepts of Nova Group. We have other things that we overlap into that as part of the team and group. at large, but fundamentally, again, one of those pillars is that vigor that other people have. That you have to have that tribe around you. If you do not do that, you're not gonna have that fire within you that you can then utilize in your day-to-day life, right? In every single second that you're thinking or how you operate. So that's how I would deal with it, and I guess that's why one of the reasons why ended up growing Nova Group into what it is now.
Well, I think it's the reason why Nova Group's growing quite successful too. I think there's such a demand for it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people who feel lost in that aspect, and the separation, finding the new group is so much uncertainty, and people lack confidence too. What would you say are your biggest tips for someone to thrive in social situations?
In social situations, good question. Biggest tip, the biggest tip that I would say you have to roll the dice. Not to go too far back on the previous podcast, but you have to roll the dice because rolling the dice allows for reinforcement and feedback and positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. That's the thing. So roll the dice, which allows for positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, which is not a good thing. Positive is, negative bad, obvious. Roll the dice, but then the reflection after doing the actions or whatever it is throughout your daily life, going to that place, meeting those people, launching this business, doing X, Y, Z, the reflection is key. After this podcast, I'm going to watch it back and reflect on what points were good, how did I conduct myself, all of those things, right? Reflect on those things because that then removes the negative reinforcement in terms of what you're doing. And then you consciously and subconsciously rehearse the positive reinforcement from whatever it is or however way you conduct yourself. So whether that's going to XYZ event, interacting with a certain person, going on a date, launching a business, corporate life, professional life, whatever it may be, you have to roll the dice. You have to have action. Without action, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to act on things. There is no time. Urgency is key. Impatience is something which I believe you should embody. Impatience is key. And be aware that time is ticking and reinforce everything positive which you want to be. That's what I would say for social situations. I guess I expanded onto other things as well, but for social, just
Expose yourself to those situations.
exposure is a great word. Great word, yeah.
Yeah, and then reflect upon it. I think that's really important. How well, and you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And you can't be a perfectionist. And you got to accept and expect that you're not going to get things right the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time. You'll be going on every single time. You're not going to get things perfect.
Yeah.
I really like the way you speak about the reflection. I think that is vital for growth. If we don't reflect upon it, like I realized I wasn't doing enough of that when I started this podcast. And for me then, I was growing in the aspect of figuring out how it all works and how to post and like the logistics of it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And now I've got that in control, like this conversation with you, like you will. I'm going to watch it back as I'm editing it. I'm going to figure things out. Look what I can do better next time. Maybe I can improve the camera angles. Maybe I can improve the lighting. But you have to reflect. And I suppose you meet people, think about what they say too, you know? I made a video on this the other day, and I want to know what you think about it.
Yeah.
But the Stoics say that 2 ears, 1 mouth is a ratio to be respected.
It's a good way of thinking. Yeah.
Because you don't learn anything by saying things, really. You only learn things from listening.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you do. It's I love that analogy. There's so much to learn and key little nuggets of information, golden nuggets of wisdom that you can then apply. It's you learn, you listen, you reflect, and then that influences your actions, the way you speak, whatever it may be. I really like that point.
You're a person, you love sport, you
Yeah.
love calisthenics. You grew up, we said this in the last podcast, but you grew up involving yourself in martial arts, in rugby, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that you are guided by the principle that competition grows you, makes you grow.
Mhm.
What would you advise someone to do with your understanding of that?
Um, yeah, I would say put yourself in a competitive environment, a non-toxic competitive environment that is where you're able to see what other people are doing, reflect on it, take on those traits, compete with other people. I mean, it's fundamentally human nature, right? You want to compete, we have to compete. That plant is competing with other roots within that pot to get the most nutrients, right? It's ingrained into all aspects of life, competition. But on a more of a human level, yeah, it's a good way, it's a good philosophy, or I guess vehicle or instrument in terms of getting where you need to be. Competition is normal, it's natural, it's very natural in terms of the mental framework for it. So if you can be aware of that, take that, use that ideal for to align with whatever it may be that you want to conclude and action upon. That's something that's very valuable. So yeah, what's my thoughts on competition and discipline that comes from it and whatnot is it's also a very good way of learning because human beings, and this is actually something I wanted to mention earlier, but luckily I just thought of it now. Human beings, we learn so much from really negative situations and very impactful situations. Hence, why does PTSD exist, right? Something traumatic that is crazy and out there affects someone. That then can impact you for years and years and beyond. So, and there's a reason for that. It's because you're vulnerable then, ideally, or not ideally, but you're vulnerable. You then, you're hardwired to then take on whatever it may be that put you in that vulnerable situation or association with that. And then that has a lasting impact, right? So, where was I going with this? Yeah, the, in terms of being able to put yourself out there in situations where you're in a competitive environment, that triggers a sympathetic response, which is what we call that in a biological terms within your body physiologically, which is where heightened heart rate, pupils dilated, you're nervous, you're excited. The cool thing about that though is that you can be very smart with this response, this sympathetic response, which causes all of that because it's not that far off from the exact physiological response that you get with excitement. So if you can go in a situation where you're nervous and that sympathetic response is triggered, you can then, or that nervousness that comes from being in that weird or daunting situation, whatever it may be, you can then mentally isolate that, flip that into something that is exciting, invigorating, and out there, and you're rolling the dice and whatnot, you reinforce that over time. That is a secret weapon. That is a superpower. I've done that within my own life, and that's one way in which I actually think. I used to be, I used to be nervous in situations. I'm not necessarily a social person, or super extroverted. I struggled with that when I was younger, but because of that, because of what I just said, I've taken that and I've completely flipped it. And now you can put me in any social situation in the world. I don't care where it is. I'll be fine because I'm so confident in my own internal beliefs based on that reinforcement over time of how do you then turn a positive thing, a negative thing into a positive thing. But again, the biology behind that or the physiological reaction behind that is the same. Nervousness and excitement. They're the same spectrum.
One's just positive anticipation, one's negative anticipation.
Exactly that. So
That's a really
yeah,
interesting way of thinking about it. Because if you feel nervous and fearful, when you actually really think about it, if you can alchemize that emotion
yeah,
and transform it into excitement, that is an absolute tool that I think everyone has access to.
Everyone
Everyone
can
can
do it.
harness that power of alchemy of
Yeah.
your emotions.
If I were viewing this podcast and I was going to take away anything, I would probably be that. In terms of a trait which I would then want to integrate into my own way of being.
What would you say are the guiding principles that make a good man?
Guiding principles. Guiding principles. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that too much. For me, I would say the way I was raised has influenced those principles, whatever they may be. But guiding, I would say, is I guess not to be a cop out, but it's something that just always holds itself up and always seems to be there behind the scenes, which is do unto others, which others would do unto you. Or whatever.
Reciprocity.
Yeah. Be a kind person, reinforce those positive virtues, because think about it from their shoes. If you're in someone else's shoes, what would you like to happen to you? Then treat yourself in that way, right? Imagine if that person was you, or your younger self, or your older self. Treat them with respect and dignity, and eventually, you never know, those things may come back to you, right? That you often find that, again, within people that you know, that you're around in that sort of society, if you do that, then good things will happen to you. That doesn't necessarily mean that you do that for that outcome. I guess that's fairly outcome driven. But for me, it's just very internal for me, wanting to be someone that is guiding and have a good positive outlook on life and treat others with respect. Not necessarily because I was raised that way. I was raised that way, definitely. But there is something very internal which is very hard to put into words, which makes me that way.
Do you
Good
know what?
question,
I
though.
think I've got some words that might help you articulate that feeling.
Sure.
Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do you know?
I've heard of him. I don't know much
I
about him.
don't know much about him either, but he says this, and it's fantastic. Greatness is the understanding that virtue is enough.
Okay.
And it's basically, no matter what the externals are, if you are a person that lives by virtue, it's enough. And when I think of guiding principles and stuff, I think, yeah, you're spot on. Be kind to people. Don't be a dick. Why would you want to be a dick? Be kind to people. Make people feel positive things.
Yeah.
If you've got to be honest with someone and it's going to make them feel a negative thing, that negative thing inspires positive change. So is the negative thing even negative if it creates something positive? Not really. I don't think so. I think if you tell someone that they need, should probably get in the gym, you're getting a bit overweight and it's not healthy for you, they're not going to like that.
Yeah.
But it'll do good for them. And there are limits to that. But
Yeah.
I would consider that an act of kindness because you care about someone.
Yeah. Which goes to show that, yeah, when people have arguments and everything, right? And confrontations in life, but they may have fundamentally good intentions behind them. So,
And this goes
yeah.
back to the thing that we were saying about intentions and actions. Intention is primary. Action is secondary. Both are vital.
Yeah. You should clip that. That's perfect. I think that's spot on. They both work in tandem. Yeah, they're vital.
In tandem, yeah. Action precedes intention. I think we said this in the last podcast as well, but there's this compound to zero effect. It's like if the action doesn't exist, the intention doesn't matter, but the intention is the main thing. It's about being the thing rather than looking the thing. It's about being fit and healthy rather than just looking fit and healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the compounding. That's one thing that, again, humans don't understand. We're not hardwired to understand compounding, which is why when you do, that's such an advantage. That's such a key, because it really is a key to then unlocking the full potential within yourself. Because again, one way of framing it is it leads to upward spirals. If you're fit, if you're healthy, you have a better outlook on life, you appreciate the discipline and effort required to get to that position, those things spiral. You then help the other people around you. You have more energy, you have more vigor in life. They compound, and they especially compound when the people around you are very much on the same page.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And this is where I do believe in the law of attraction. I do believe genuinely that you don't get what you want, you get what you are. If you make yourself the person that has the life that you want, then you'll get it. Just wanting isn't enough. Again, intention, action.
Yeah.
You have to embody what you want. If you want a high value partner, high value wife or husband, you have to be the type of person that they would want to be with. Same with job opportunities. Same with opportunities in general. When you become the person of the value of the opportunity, there's almost like a synchronization
Yeah.
of the values, of the frequencies. Not to sound too woo about it, but there's an understanding that you begin to notice these opportunities of higher value when you are a higher value person, because manifesting is about embodying, and someone of a lower value, all they care about is low value things.
Yeah.
And then conversely, someone of higher value cares about higher value things. And then opportunities just seem to come flooding at you. Have you read The Alchemist?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man. If I could recommend
Oh, is it the law of attraction? Is it
Law
that?
of Attraction, it touches on so much, but alchemy, transformation, but it's all about following omens in life and framing everything as like omens, trying to push you down your life's course and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's a good way to, or a functional way of framing things, I would say. That's why there's so much value in it, because functionally it does work. Framing things this way is, it's real. It has consequences in a good way or neutral way, but I would say good in the sense that if you are looking to attract or grow, etc., according to the principles in which we discussed, you will get there if you have the prerequisite, which is being the person which you ideally wish to be and embodying that ideal. Embodiment is so key. If you don't embody that ideal, you're not going to get to the space in which you need to get to. It's not going to happen. So embodiment is key. It's crucial. And having it as a prerequisite, a foundation for who you are and your identity is also key as well. And tying in your identity, your personal identity, with the ideal version of yourself, which is very nuanced and specific to who you are. That's something which I love to reflect on and embody as well for me personally.
So to close up, I want to give you the best opportunity you can to talk more about Nova, and you've just released the app.
Yep.
What else is coming up, and how's it all going for you?
Yeah. So to touch on the app, we are now live. The app is now live, and again, the app is specifically for, not specifically for. I guess I'll pitch it again. The app is now live, and the app is for a selection of individuals that are looking to push themselves further, that are looking to be around other people that embody those positive traits that we've discussed so far. And yeah, the app is fundamentally for operators, entrepreneurs, founders, people in their professional day to day. They're looking to grow, that are looking to expand and be around other people that are also doing the same, people that are very much doing the same. So that is essentially a platform that allows individuals to connect, to grow, one-to-one chats. We do privileges, releases, announcements. We have partners as well, which are integrated into the app, and whatnot. We have quite a lot. Retreats as well. Everything there is all consolidated into one platform. So that is fundamentally the purpose of it existing. And also it really is to bring on the international audience as well, because we have so many people that contact us that saying, oh yeah, how can I get involved in this community? This aligns exactly with what I'm doing. I'm doing XYZ. I'm building with these people, doing this thing. Where can I get updates? How can I speak with other people that are aligned with me on this? But again, they can't, because there is no platform that exists for that within the ideals that Nova Group embodies. However, now with the app, anyone across the world on Android and Apple Store can download Nova Group and be a part of that community. And you can filter by, your profession, what you're looking for, your location, and also attach your links as well, your personal links to whatever it may be that you're working on as well. So it really is a portfolio for you as an individual to market yourself and your skill set, what you're looking for, and to connect with other people that are like-minded in the aspects in which we've discussed so far.
It's really exciting news. I
Yeah.
think I definitely want to get some involvement with this app.
Yeah.
I just don't really know anything like it. You got Discord chats, you got WhatsApp group chats. People set up these things individually, but now you have an app, as you said, that's consolidated it all into one tiny little icon that you can click open on your screen, and you have access to all of this. How
Yeah.
can people get access to it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, go on our website, novagroup.co.uk. Go on our website, .co.uk, and yeah, there's an app section there which you can then follow that in order to download the app directly from the App Store or on Google Play Store. Or just go to the Google Play Store or App Store and type in Nova Group and it'll come up.
Perfect. Jay,
Pleasure.